The Dow Jones heads upwards as we come back into another coronavirus market rally. Rashard Jones's police officer may have had some run-ins with the law before, and so may have Rashard Jones. More statues news is coming down the pipe, and COVID may be coming back. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody, and I apologize for popping off and then popping back on for a second here. It appeared that on the first time I tried to connect, the DLive would not connect for whatever reason, and I know that you guys love your stickers. You love your DLive and you love your stickers, so I had to make sure that we definitely had DLive up, running, and ready to go. So we are back on, we are back running, we're back ready to go, and just like clockwork, you knew what was going to happen. Conservative Inc. came out and doxed Rashard Brooks's criminal record too. And it turns out, once again, that this is going to be somebody who wasn't exactly innocent, and that's going to be the justification that people are going to use to say, well, he deserved to die. He didn't deserve to die. Not that way. Well, that one I've got to turn over to a jury of his peers. I'm not going to say he didn't, because he had the cop's taser, and who knows where that could have gone at that point. We talked about that yesterday twice. So I'm not going to say he did or he didn't deserve to die, but, doxing somebody's criminal record that's just petty and shitty. It's just horrible. So, fuck you, Charlie Kirk, and your little organization too. But before we get started into anything good, let's head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Looks like my garden update actually hit the website, so you can go over there and check that out. The Daily Ignoramus is back to the website because Steven is no longer suspended from streaming on YouTube, so go and check that out. We've got the Generational Gap, we've got the Freckles and Brit Show. We've got Wyatt Birkenhoff and the R-Rated Conservative. Go and check us out over there. I don't know if RRC stuff is uploading. I'll have to check in to see what's going on with that. But go and check us out over there and join the fun, buy our swag, and enjoy our company. So we're going to start here with the stocks. We'll look at the stock markets from yesterday. If I could actually have the right scene queued up when I do this here. It was like we had a little bit of a dip off at the beginning from the futures, which we talked about the futures being down yesterday, but looks like she powered back. And we will see what happens here coming up in the day. But yeah, you can't keep a good economy down no matter how hard they try to do so. All right, let's go on down to Investors Business Daily and see what the stocks have to say though. Dow Jones futures jump, extending coronavirus stock market rally. Tesla back above 1,000. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures jumped early Tuesday along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, extending Monday's gains. The coronavirus stock market rally rebounded from big early losses to close higher Monday. A Federal Reserve move to buy individual corporate bonds buoyed sentiment despite concerns as coronavirus cases pick up. And you knew what was going to happen when they started opening places back up. I mean, yes, you can hold some of this down on a lockdown forever, but there's no major immunity. Nobody got this disease, so yeah, the cases are going to start to tick back up. It's a fact of life. And of course, we saw places like New York and California that want to stay locked down until there's 0 cases in the world ever, but there's a balance between the nanny state locking you down and opening everything back up so people can go out and infect each other and do a super infection. So we've got to find the balance because there are some people that are immune compromised that obviously can't be out there. But for the most part, this barely affected anybody under the age of 60. So for the most part, most of us can actually be out there and interacting with each other. We'll have the cases, but not the deaths. But we will see what happens with that. Of course, I'm not a medical expert. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in there. Cloudflare, Fortinet, Dexcom, Teladoc Health, and Microsoft all flashed buy signals. Meanwhile, Tesla was a strong winner Monday as buzz moved on from Tesla Semi to the Cybertruck. Tesla stock actually lagged rival electric vehicle stocks, though, such as NIO and Nikola. Tesla was back above 1,000 before Tuesday's open. The stock market rally got off to a weak start Monday as coronavirus cases picked up in the U.S. and Beijing shut down part of the cities due to an outbreak at a major food market. Was it a wet market? by chance? Possibly a wet market that serves bad soup. Who knows? But the major indices showed rallied off lows, with the Nasdaq turning higher in the afternoon. The Fed announced that it'll buy individual corporate bonds versus just corporate bonds ETFs. Previously, excuse me, sent the coronavirus stock market rally to session highs, but stocks paired gains into the close. Cloudflare stock broke out of a short consolidation. Fortinet stock, Dexcom stock, and Teladoc stock all rebounded bullishly from their 10-week lines, with TDOC stock also crossing a trend line. Microsoft stock closed in buy range after once again dipping to a support area. NetStock, FTNT stock, Dexcom, Microsoft are all on IBD leaderboard, along with Tesla, Cloudflare stock, and Fortinet stock are on Swing Trader. Fortinet and Microsoft stock are also on IBD long-term leaders. Dexcom stock and FTNT stock are on the IBD 50 list. While Teladoc stock offers pure coronavirus play, Fortinet, Cloudflare, Dexcom, and Microsoft all have businesses that are doing well during the COVID-19 crisis. Tesla stock is a coronavirus recovery story. These 6 stocks also reflect diversity in terms of sectors, size, and speed. On the futures, Dow Jones futures rose 2.25% versus fair value, though off their best overnight levels. S&P 500 futures advanced 1.8%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 1.8%. Volatility in Dow Jones futures has returned over the past week. In addition to the federal bond plan, President Trump reportedly is mulling a $1 trillion infrastructure proposal to revive economic growth. Yep, he's a Democrat. Yep, just keep spending and doing that New Deal. But even if Congress and Trump were to reach a deal, it might take years for the bulk of the money to be spent. No, it won't. Have you seen how fast the government spends money? That's about a 30-second spend for our government. $1 trillion. Years. Remember that overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading for the next regular stock market session. Dow Jones futures were down sharply early Monday, but the major indices closed with solid gains. All right, let's go on and see another point of view on the stocks from MarketWatch today. Dow futures jumped 590 points as Trump seen waiting $1 trillion stimulus. Investors await Powell testimony. U.S. stock index futures were higher Tuesday morning. No, I don't want to see the stock. Go away. Aiming to add the previous day's rally amid reports that President Trump is backing $1 trillion infrastructure spending package to add more fiscal stimulus to help the economy recover from the coronavirus pandemic. Investors are also awaiting testimony Tuesday from Federal Reserve Jerome Powell after the Fed expanded its corporate bond buying program Monday to include purchases in the secondary market. Futures for Dow Jones Industrial Average were rising 591 points or 2.3% at 26,268. Those for the S&P 500 index were at 5560 points at 31,1750 higher, or up 1.9%, while NASDAQ 100 futures were advancing 153 points or 1.6% at 9941.50. Yeah, that's going to peak back about 10K. I was about to say 10 grand, but it's about to jump back up about 10K. On Monday, the Dow closed 157.62 points higher, or 0.6% at 25,763.16. after falling by as many as 762 points or 3% at its Monday low. The S&P 500 added 2528 points or 0.8%, finishing 3066.59 after hitting an intraday low at 2965.66 or down 2.5%. The Nasdaq Composite Index advanced 137.21 points or 1.4%, ending at 9726.02. Both the S&P 500 and the Dow mounted their sharpest reversal to finish in positive territory since March 19th, according to Dow Jones market data. On Tuesday, the market's early advance was being attributed to a Bloomberg report that the Trump administration was working on a $1 trillion infrastructure spending package to help revive the economy on the back of an existing infrastructure funding that comes up for renewal on September 30th. Meanwhile, market participants will be watching remarks from the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell as part of his two-day semi-annual testimony before the U.S. Congress. Powell's Senate testimony starts at 10 a.m. Eastern, though he is expected to reiterate the bleak outlook for the economy outlined at the Fed's policy meeting last week. So they're going to try and sell a bunch of bonds, and they're going to try and spend your money even faster at this point. So keep an eye on that, and we'll see what's going on with that. All right, before I get into some real news, I just want to point out a little bit of stupidity from Twitter, of which there's a lot. I can't limit myself to just a little bit of stupidity because there's definitely a lot. A tweet that came out and started to go viral, actually, with a lot of people coming out and talking about it, was the fact that Kayleigh McEnany tweeted out, "Fun fact, Domino's is way better than any New York City pizza." And Domino's Pizza replied back at Kayleigh McEnany, "That's one heck of a compliment. Thanks for the love. Hashtag we appreciate it." And, of course, because this tweet was out here, there were calls on Twitter to boycott and cancel and destroy the business of Domino's Pizza. But what nobody would point out to you, what nobody would bring up to you as they were talking about it, is look at the timestamp, as it seems that nobody else would do here. Both of these tweets occurred on November 8th of 2012, 8 years ago. 8 fucking years ago, they wanted to destroy Domino's over because they thanked Kayleigh McEnany for giving them a compliment 7 years before anybody knew who Kayleigh McEnany was. This is just beyond ridiculous at this point. I can't even believe that this is happening. I can't believe that this is a real thing, but this actually happened. And somebody went down deep enough into Kayleigh McEnany's profile to go and find this. 8 years. 8 years they went back to go and find this. And I can't understand anything that's going along with this. I can't understand a second of this. Give me a second. I don't have a monitor up anymore. I'm missing one. All right. Sorry. Fix that. So, yes. We want to cancel Domino's Pizza for an opinion they had 8 years ago. This goes back to the Kavanaugh thing, the Trump things, and everything else at this point. You can never escape the opinion that you had 8 years ago, and Domino's has been fairly leftist in their policy. I don't know if they're going to be anymore, but with their policy, with their in-company policy, and I think even with some of their donations, they've been fairly left-wing. But nope, they complimented the press secretary 8 years ago, so they must burn. All right, let's talk about Atlanta. So, from CNN, we start off with Atlanta officer who shot Rashard Brooks had several citizen complaints against him, records show. This is from Christina McSorris. Newly released records show the officer who shot and killed Rashard Brooks in Atlanta last week had several citizen complaints against him prior to the incident. Isn't that always how it seems to work? As soon as something happens, we go digging. We go digging as a society because we both want to run to the corner. Just like I talked about with Kirk earlier, Kirk wants to uphold his narrative, which he tries to be racist to appease the racists, but he doesn't do it very well. And CNN wants to go out and paint all cops as bad, and they're going to come with receipts. Garrett Rolfe was fired from the Atlanta Police Department a day after Brooks' killing, shortly after the police chief announced she was stepping down. A second officer on the scene, Devin Brosnan, was placed on administrative duty. Rolfe's citizen complaints date back to 2015, according to records released by Atlanta Police. All incidents have notes that no action was taken. A 2016 use of force complaint resulted in a written reprimand the following year, records show. I could have told people, I guarantee you this officer has had issues in the past. It's normally that situation, L. Chris Stewart, an attorney for Brooks' family, said Monday night. You know who causes issues or who had prior issues or who has complaints? A lot of them don't get justified, and then they stay on the force, so it wasn't a surprise. CNN has reached out to the department for more information on the officer's record. CNN has also reached out to the Atlanta Police Foundation. Rolf and Brosnan had not responded to repeated requests for comment. Look, here's reality. I don't care if you would have had the greenest of green police officers out there, or the most seasoned veteran with the most flawless record out there. In that situation, I am almost 100% positive. I would say probably 90% positive. Every single officer that you would have had on that scene would have reacted the exact same way. This would have happened the exact same way no matter who the officer was on the scene, who the responding officer was at this point. And furthermore, unless you have the greenest of absolutely 100% green cadets, fresh out of the academy, never even ridden in a police car before. Given the nature of what police is, the excessive number of laws that we have out there on the books, and just the nature of people who seek power, I want you to show me police officers in a large number that don't have complaints of excessive force against them at this point. It is in the nature of the beast. Most of the time when somebody has a run-in with the police, they're butthurt about it and they're going to file a complaint. So you would be hard-pressed to find that one miraculous cop that doesn't have, and I'm sure that there are a few of them out there, but I'm pretty sure that number is going to be negligible compared to the number that do have the complaints about them, because once again, if you're running in with the police, you're having a negative effect. It's going to happen. It's going to wind up being negative. Somebody's feelings are going to be hurt, and they're going to try and do everything down to filing that complaint to try and get off on the charges that they were charged against. But yes, they're going to go dig in. Like I said, Kirk went out and started digging for Brooks's record too, because we can't have him be a martyr. So that is that. Let's keep going down the stack here. A man shot in New Mexico at protest over statue of Spanish conquistador. This is from David Arrow over at Fox News. A man was shot Monday after gunfire erupted at a demonstration in New Mexico, where protesters attempted to topple a bronze conquistador statue on Albuquerque Museum, authorities said. The man was taken to a local hospital where he was listed in critical but stable condition, police said. The shooting tonight was a tragic, outrageous, and unacceptable act of violence, and it has no place in our city, Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller said in a statement. The shooting occurred during a clash between protesters and the New York Civil Guard, a heavily armed civilian group that attempted to protect the controversial sculpture, a monument that features Spanish conquistador Juan de Oñate, according to the Albuquerque Journal. Protesters reportedly wrapped a chain around the statue and started tugging amid chants of tear it down. At least one person swung a pickaxe at the statue of New Mexico's 16th century colonial governor. Gunshots could be heard down the street just moments later, with several people yelling, "Somebody got shot." According to the Journal, about 5 shots were fired by a single gunman after protesters started advancing on him, the paper reported. Police used chemical irritants and flashbangs to protect officers and detain those involved in the shooting. Albuquerque police spokesman Gilbert Gallegos said officers were seen taking 5 or 6 men dressed in military fatigues into custody. We are receiving reports about vigilante groups possibly instigating this violence. If this is true, we will be holding them accountable to the fullest extent of the law, including federal hate group designation and prosecution. Of course, because it was a person on that side. And you can't file a hate group designation against somebody who's tearing down history, tearing down the statues, or happens to be an elected official with a Democrat D next to his name. You can't do any of that, but of course, yes, you fire off one shot and it's instantly a hate group. You want to talk about a fucking double standard that's going on here. He added that the city will be removing the statue until the appropriate civic institutions can determine the next steps in order to limit the public safety risk. So, yep, somebody went out and decided he was going to play vigilante, and now he has set back the cause of freedom 1,000 fucking years and given more ammunition for the ability to, I don't know, tear down more of these statues and concede a little bit more out to the left. So thank you for that. We need less policing, honestly. And I mean, this would be a legitimate use for the police because somebody was imminently being harmed at this point, but the fact that now they're going to try and bring out hate crimes, hate laws, and hate group status on everything off of this is just taking it a step far. Take the guy in for murder, try him for murder, apply punishment as necessary for murder, depending on what a jury of his peers says, and move on with your day. This hate crime bullshit. It's already illegal to kill somebody, but we're going to make it extra, extra, super duper secret illegal. Because you did something that society didn't like. So, that happened in New Mexico, and I don't know if we're actually going to see an end to this coming out of it, but we'll keep watching this story, of course, as we move along. All right. From the first news, this is actually something a bit different than what I would think out of this. Rioters vandalized statue of U.S. hero Tadeusz Kościuszko as violent protests erupt across America. This is from Stuart Doell. The Tadeusz Kościuszko monument in Washington, D.C. was vandalized last night in rioting that has engulfed the United States after killing of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis. The plinth, which stands in front of the White House in Lafayette Park, was graffitied with vulgar attacks against President Trump and anti-racist slogans. The Polish ambassador in Washington, Piotr Wilczek, has called on the White House and the National Park Service to restore the monument quickly to its original state. I am disgusted and appalled by acts of violence committed against the statue of Tadeusz Kościuszko in D.C., a hero who fought for the independence of both the U.S. and Poland, he wrote on Twitter. Former U.S. Ambassador and to NATO, Kurt Volker, shared Wilczek's outrage, posting on Twitter that he could not agree more with Ambassador Wilczek. The monument of Tadeusz Kościuszko was erected in Washington in 1910. Kościuszko, who is described as a hero of two nations, took part in the American Revolutionary War in 1776 to 1777. On his return to Poland, he led a rebellion against Tsarist Russia, which failed and led to the Third Partition of Poland. So yes, they're out to erase any part of history at this point, including that racist history of the Revolutionary War, which has led to more freedom of more people across the country than any other event in human history, I believe, to be completely honest. I can't verify that. I probably should have said that before. I can't verify that's led to the freedom of more people, but from everything that I've seen out of the world right now, it's led to the freedom of more people than any other event in world history. But, a Revolutionary War hero, he's got to be torn down just like the Confederate guys, because the revolutionaries, they held slaves, don't you know? So, yeah, it's not going to stop with Columbus and the Confederate stuff. They're going to try and whitewash every piece of history out there. Or either that, or they have no idea who this guy is, and they think he's another Confederate guy. That could be it, too. Alright, let's keep going on here. The Minnesota Freedom Fund has come under fire, and I have not been able to find an article to back this up at this point, but I'll be looking on that into that for tomorrow's contemporary. Minnesota Freedom Fund, I appreciate all those calling for transparency. We see y'all, our values and mission have not changed since 2016. Be on the lookout for things coming on our end. Be well. Without jeopardizing the safety of the folks we bailed out, we paid well over $200,000 in the weeks since the uprising alone. We are working on doing more. And they were very proud of the fact that they spent $200,000 in bail funds for people out there until several people, including Eugene Gu, medical doctor, which I don't know why he's blue check verified, but apparently he is. Maybe it's for Maryland, I don't know, but points out that I'm not here to pass judgment, just here to do the math. 200,000 out of 35 million is 0.57%. So it appears that maybe they pocketed some of this money, and maybe they're going to use it for, I can give them the benefit of the doubt because I think they're a stupid organization, and I think that they have no place in being out there, but I can't pass judgment on them because I don't know. But hey, maybe they're holding on to it for future bail events. Maybe the federal government or people in the federal government have more of these protests planned. So they're going to need to bail more people out. But for the benefit of the doubt, hey, maybe it's not just them pocketing the money. Maybe it is them trying to use it for good things down the road. We don't know, but we will see what happens there. All right, from CNN. Roger Goodell, I encourage NFL teams to sign Colin Kaepernick to a contract. This is from Scott Polasek. Former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick has not played a down in the NFL since March of 2017, but NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said he encourages teams to sign him Monday. Well, listen, if he wants to resume his career in the NFL, then obviously it's going to take a team to make that decision, Goodell said during a conversation with Mike Greenberg for ESPN's The Return of Sports special. But I welcome that. I support a club making that decision, and I encourage them to do that. Goodell also said that Kaepernick can have a role with the NFL even if he isn't playing to help the league make strides, as the national conversation has turned to a systemic racism and police brutality. Oh, jeez. So Goodell is even out there trying to say, "Hey, take Kaepernick back. We need to have good public image. Our public image is going to be gone. We need to be better." How can we be better? Oh, I know. We'll take back a negative rated quarterback who hasn't touched a football in 4 years. I've said it before on this channel, and I will say it again right now. Colin Kaepernick sucked during his last season. And once again, I will point out the fact that Aaron Hernandez murdered a guy and kept playing. Until pretty much the point where they hauled him off to jail. Or to prison, rather, for the rest of his life. With the history of domestic abuse, drinking, drug problems, and everything else that goes on in the NFL, if a guy is going to kneel, and he's actually as good of a player as Kaepernick was in the beginning of his career, he'd still be fucking playing football. This has nothing to do with your little kneeling stunt, dude. As much as you are trying to use it to call attention to your little kneeling stunt because you're throwing a temper tantrum, this has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. You got benched and you tried to make a publicity stunt because you got benched so people would still say your name and pay attention to you. Because you didn't like the fact that you got benched. And when you got fired, because you sucked, because nobody could put you up on the field and have you make a completed pass, then you decided to call racism against the NFL, and now they're starting to listen. Last season might have been my last season watching the NFL. I still like the Packers, but it's going to be real hard if they do this. If they actually do this, it's going to be really, really hard to give any sort of support and money to Roger Goodell at this point. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going on. NYPD officers taken to hospital after drinking milkshakes at Shake Shack. No criminality. This is from Edmund DeMarche over at Fox News. 3 New York Police Department officers were taken to the hospital on Monday night after drinking milkshakes at Shake Shack in the city that they said had an unfamiliar taste, police officials told Fox News. It was later determined that there was no criminality after police investigated the scene. After a thorough investigation by the NYPD's Manhattan South investigators, it has been determined that there was no criminality by Shake Shack's employees, Chief Rodney Harrison, the head of detectives for the police department, announced on Twitter. The burger chain did not immediately respond to an after-hours email from Fox News. But the incident initially raised speculation within police unions that the drinks were tampered with, given the recent incidents involving police officers around the country. Patrick J. Lynch, the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association of the City of New York, said the police officers were working protest detail and stopped at the location on Broadway and Fulton Street. He said that one of the police officers discovered that a toxic substance believed to be bleach had been placed in their beverages. When the New York City police officers cannot even take a meal without coming under attack, it is clear that the environment in which we work has deteriorated to a critical level. Cities across the U.S., including New York, have seen widespread protests in the wake of the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. This is just wrong. I am sorry. And I don't know what happened. I want to see what the ME's report is and see what the actual funny taste of it is. But, I mean, you don't mess with a man's milkshake. My God. But this goes along with the idea, and I said this last week, and I said it the week before as well. We're moving to a point where our society is trying to make either protesters, rioters, or police officers all just these faceless mob entities. That they don't have a face, that they don't have an identity, that they're a massive group. And these police officers are people. And they want to go home every day. Yes, To Ron's point, they're enforcing a lot of unjust laws, but they are still people. Once you start taking that face away from these people, then yes, it's easy to demonize them, it's easy to dehumanize them, and it's easy to clear your conscience if you do something that may lead to their death. And once again, this is going on the assumption that there was some sort of foreign material up to and including bleach in the drinks of these police officers. And we don't know that at this point. We don't know what this was. We don't know what was in the milkshakes. We don't know even what happened at this point. But this is not outside the realm of surprise to me at this point that this could actually happen. This is... I can't even believe this is happening in our lives anymore. I can't even believe that we've got to this point in our lives, in our society, that we can sit back and demonize the police in the way that we do. So, I look forward to this story being buried because it doesn't fit a narrative, but we will see what happens with this one as it goes along. All right, New York State lawmaker pledges to cut off the chains in open playgrounds if Mayor de Blasio doesn't drop ban. This is from Tim Pierce over at Daily Wire. A New York State senator says he and other lawmakers will cut off the chains in open New York City's playgrounds unless Mayor de Blasio orders them open within a few days. State Senator Simcha Felder slammed the Democratic mayor on Monday, accusing him of catering to donors and supporters by allowing playgrounds to remain open in some city districts, while chaining and welding gates shut in others. It's a tale of two cities, Felder, also a Democrat, told the Daily Wire. Wealthier neighborhoods like Central Park and the east side of Manhattan, there are certain playgrounds in certain neighborhoods. Somehow the playgrounds and parks are open. In other neighborhoods, they're closed, Felder continued. De Blasio is doing whatever he likes. He's catering to the people that support him the most. Isn't that just politics, though? Isn't that what you do, is cater to the people that support you the most? No matter what letter it is after your name. You don't represent everybody. It's just whoever can pay the bills and whoever pays you the most and supports you the most. A spokeswoman for the city's Department of Parks and Rec denied Felder's claim, telling the Daily Wire that all playgrounds across the city are closed to keep children safe. One instance of the city's workers welding a playground's gate shut was a temporary measure after the playground was broken into, the latest in over 24 such instances. At that playground, the Parks Department is planning to break the weld and replace the chain and lock as soon as possible, the spokeswoman said. Felder's district stretches from Sunset Park to Madison in South Brooklyn. He and State Assemblyman Simcha Eichenstein, and City Councilman Kalman Yeager rallied at the park in Midwood on Sunday, demanding that the mayor open all parks across the city. The lawmakers say that opening parks and playgrounds is not a question of allowing for greater spread of the coronavirus, but giving children a safe space to play. The kids are playing with each other, there's no question about that, Felder said. The kids are playing with each other, they're playing in the street, they're playing in unsafe conditions instead of having the playgrounds open. So, yeah, I mean, it's de Blasio. He's going to do what's the best for him and to hell with everybody else. But, I mean, at this point, with people standing shoulder to shoulder constantly, and these are adult people, along with a coronavirus that has barely, if ever, affected a child. I don't even know if there has been a child death from this at all. Why not open the parks? Why not do it? Or just get the government out of the way and let the people assess their own level of risk, whether they want to go to the park or not. Just throwing it out there. I think freedom is a lot better an option than utter tyranny from a New York City mayor. But that's what we're seeing. All right, let's go to the other side of the world. North Korea blows up liaison office in Kaesong used for talks with the South. This is from Josh Berlinger, Jake Kwan, and Yoonjung Seo over at CNN. North Korea has blown up a joint liaison office used for talks between itself and South Korea, the latest sign that ties between the two longtime adversaries are rapidly deteriorating. North Korean state media reported that the four-story building, which is located in the town of Kaesong on the North Korean side of the demilitarized zone that divides the two Koreas, was completely destroyed by a terrific explosion at 2:50 p.m. local time. A plume of black smoke rising above the site was visible from South Korean side of the border shortly after. The Liaison office has been closed since January 30th due to the novel coronavirus pandemic, according to the South Korean Unification Ministry. South Korean staff had not been to the building since, the ministry said, but the destruction of a building meant to facilitate dialogue paid for by South Korea and sitting on North Korean soil is highly symbolic. It may mark a turning point in relations between the two countries that had committed themselves to a new era of peace fewer than 3 years ago. North Korea framed its decision to destroy the liaison office as a retaliatory measure after a group of defectors used balloons to send anti-North Korean leaflets north of the DMZ. Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday with that delightful little praying mantis that is the sister of Kim Jong-un, and whether or not she's actually in power or not, or whether Un is even alive at this point. But my goodness, they blew it up. And I do have to wonder if this is going to lead to some sort of aggression at this point, but it does definitely seem that the North Korean side said, you know what, fuck it, we don't want to talk anymore. We're done talking. We want to be bitter rivals, if not warriors at this point. So I don't know if they're going to push into an incursion, but yeah, they just blew up a lot of South Korean money too. All right, let's keep going off of here. From the Daily Wire, extremely severe, China starts locking down parts of Beijing over new coronavirus outbreak after failing to contain the pandemic. The CCP has started to lock down portions of Beijing in recent days after a new coronavirus outbreak in the authoritarian nation's capital city. The New York Times reported on Saturday that 53 people had tested positive for the coronavirus, which originated in China late last year, and that nearly everyone who tested positive for the disease had worked or shopped at a Zinfadi market, a wholesale market on the city's south side that sells seafood, fruits, and vegetables. Bat soup? Do they sell bat? Maybe? Throw those bat stickers up in the chat if you got them. By Tuesday morning, China had said that they had detected at least 106 people who had been infected from the new outbreak in Beijing. Leading intelligence agencies from around the world have largely viewed the statistics provided by the CCP throughout the pandemic to be intentionally downplayed. Yeah, so they're actually... they've got some angle. They've got to have some angle because they're going out and testing again, because they just stopped testing at some point so they could come out and say, oh, no, we have 0 cases. No worry, don't look over here. But now they're testing again, and now they're seeing that, somehow we have a new outbreak, 53 cases. It's mysterious. We had no cases forever, and now we suddenly have them in. Is U.S. sending terrorists over, sending virus over to us? So we will see what happens again. And of course, with something like this happening, this is going to make all the markets shudder, which makes me wonder what's going to happen today in the markets, and if the markets are going to go down and the left is going to come out and say that the market is the economy again because it's going down. Who knows, but we can't trust a word that's coming out of China on the coronavirus at this point, but we'll see if this shuts down our economy again. Let's keep moving along. From Fox News, reporters speculate about Trump's health after his slow walk down ramp at West Point commencement. Do you ever wonder if he just does some of this stuff to screw with the people, to see if they'll actually notice that he's doing it? Because I really do start to wonder about that sometime. He walks just fine down the stairs of an airplane, down the White House steps. He walks just fine everywhere else. But all of a sudden, he has a little bit of trouble walking down a low-grade ramp. And I do have to wonder if, for whatever reason, this is because he wants people to make headlines about it. This is from Joseph A. Wolfzone. Members of the mainstream media sounded the alarm about President Trump's health for what they believe were signs of declining health during his appearance at the West Point commencement ceremony. Following his prepared remarks to the military academy graduates, Trump was seen cautiously walking down a ramp from the stage. A clip was shared on Twitter by a Vox journalist, Aaron Rapar, and has over 12 million views. Of course it does. The New York Times ran the headline, Trump's halting walk down the ramp raises new health questions. Mr. Trump, who turned 74 on Sunday, is the oldest a U.S. president has been in his first term, was recorded hesitantly descending a ramp, one step at a time, after he delivered an address to graduating cadets at the New York-based academy on Saturday. The academy superintendent, Lieutenant General Daryl A. Williams, walked alongside him. Mr. Trump sped slightly up for the final 3 steps as he got to the bottom, Times reporter Maggie Haberman wrote. Many took to Twitter and questioned the president's health. Serious question what's going on with him. His supporters have tried so hard to get the media to question Joe Biden's mental and physical fitness, but they so often engage in projection it seems worth inquiring. MSNBC host Joy Reid tweeted, "Of course she did, because it's Joy Reid and it's MSNBC." Your periodic reminder that we still do not know why Donald Trump was suddenly taken by car to Walter Reed in November without notifying either the hospital personnel or the local police, who would normally restrict traffic to clear the path for the presidential motorcade to travel safely, White House reporter Andrew Feinberg wrote. Didn't we not determine that was food poisoning back in November? That there was a suspicion of food poisoning and he had to get tested? And possibly sabotage that went along with that? Did we not determine that already at the time, or is that just, are we forgetting about that for convenience and narrative? Haberman and other journalists also speculated that Trump's sip of water during his speech was also cause for concern because he needed both hands to lift the glass to his mouth. No, dude, he is fucking playing with you guys. He is seeing if you'll actually make this a headline or not, and if you're actually paying attention to some of the other things that are going on at this point. I'm pretty certain of that, but the other side of that is you guys are questioning the fact of President Trump's fitness for office because he's the oldest sitting president in the first term at this point. Never mind the fact that Joe Biden is 4 years older than he is and Bernie Sanders is 5 years older than he is. Never mind any of that. But yeah, no, let's go talk about Trump's health again. Alright, let's keep going here. In a landmark case, Supreme Court rules LGBTQ workers are protected from job discrimination. The decision said Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which makes it illegal for employers to discriminate because of a person's sex, also covers sexual orientation and transgender status. This is from Pete Williams over at NBC. The Supreme Court ruled Monday that existing federal law forbids job discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or transgender status, a major victory for advocates of gay rights and for the nascent transgender rights movement, and a surprising one from an increasingly conservative court. By a vote of 6-3, the court said the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which makes it illegal for employers to discriminate because of a person's sex among the factors, also covers sexual orientation and transgender status. It upheld rulings from lower courts that said sexual orientation discrimination was a form of sex discrimination. Equally surprising was that the decision was written by President Donald Trump's first Supreme Court appointee, Neil Gorsuch, who was joined by Chief Justice John Roberts and the court's 4 more liberal members to form a majority. An employer who fired an individual for being homosexual or transgender fires that person for traits or actions it could not have questioned in members of a different sex. Gorsuch wrote for the court, sex plays a necessary and indisguisable role in the decision, exactly what Title VII forbids. Those who adopted the Civil Rights Act might not have anticipated their work would lead to this particular result, he wrote, adding, but the limits of the drafter's imagination supply no reason to ignore the law's demands. Only the written word is the law, and all persons are entitled to its benefit, he wrote, and that is what I pointed out last night when we talked about this on Ed's World. All persons are entitled to its benefit, equal protection under the law. That has been, that's a major thing. And I do think this was the right decision. And I know, honestly, because I was seeing the fact that this was going to be coming up for a decision over the weekend. When I got back from the East Coast, I was starting to see that this was going to come up. This was going to start becoming a thing, and people were going to start talking about this. And it really did seem like all of the mainstream media had their articles written already to say how horrible the Supreme Court is and how we need to pack the court and how we need to get rid of the court. And these people are ready to legislate from the bench, even though the left has been legislating from the bench for 70 years at this point. They were afraid of the new Supreme Court makeup legislating from the bench because that's the only way that most of these people know how to legislate at this point. But they didn't legislate from the bench. They took the Constitution at its word and applied equal protection under the law. And I know that big part of this when I saw this going around yesterday was the fact that a lot of the mainstreams were out there trying to say that, oh, Trump is going to have buyer's remorse because he put Gorsuch up and Gorsuch betrayed him. Gorsuch betrayed him and he advanced the agenda of the gays. Dude, Trump has been the most pro-gay president at the start ever. He was okay with gay marriage from the start of it, even before he was the president. Everybody else has changed their mind and been civil union Democrats and grown into the gay rights thing, but Trump was there from the beginning. So I don't know what kind of picture you want to paint of the current president that we have sitting here at this point, but there's plenty of actual stuff you can go after him for. You don't have to go after made up sexism, made up anti-gay, or made up health problems. He signed the Patriot Act back into law. You can go after him for that. But, of course, you guys love the Patriot Act, so why would you ever do that? Alright. I got a couple here that are non-political here, but I want to talk about them anyway. From NDTV, plane makes emergency landing after passenger breaks window. Authorities say that 29-year-old Lee lost control of her emotions on the flight. And there's the window, by the way. No, I don't want your braking alerts. Fuck you. Yep, there's your broken window. A plane was forced to make an emergency landing after an intoxicated woman broke a window mid-flight. She was reportedly upset over a failed relationship. The incident occurred last month during a domestic Loong Airlines flight in China, reports The Sun. Authorities say the 29-year-old Lee lost control of her emotions on the flight on May 25th. Photos that are being widely circulated on the Chinese social media platforms are like Weibo, shows Miss Lee crying in her seat and striking a glass window even as crew members and other passengers tried to restrain and pacify her. She managed to crack the first layer of the aircraft window by punching it repeatedly. The plane was supposed to travel from Jining to the coastal city of Yangcheng in East China. However, the pilot was forced to make an emergency stop in Zhengzhou, the capital city of the country's Henan province, after Miss Lee broke the window. Yeah. They don't fly real well with a broken window. And they don't hold pressure in the cabin very well with a broken window either. So that's probably the best choice. I did not think, though, that window would be easy enough to break, that a small Asian woman would be able to break it like that. But, hey, prove me wrong. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And of course, yes, the police officers are out there. Face is covered as well, and she was detained as soon as she got off the plane. So her blood alcohol content was measured at 160 milligrams per 100 milliliters. So what was that? Probably about 0.1-ish, maybe a little bit more. Police has not revealed how Miss Lee was remanded in custody for, or whether she will be fined for damaging the aircraft. I'm sure she will. That's a pretty big deal, and that's, from what I understand, a pretty expensive piece of glass to break as well. All right, last one on the news from CNN, if it ever loads. Oh, that's lame. That's not going to load. I don't know why. I wonder if CNN took it down. All right, we will give that a second here, and we'll actually go ahead and check the Twitter trending instead, see what we got going on there. So let's see what's happening. Go over here to the trending tab and see what we've got. All right, Tuesday vibes, because it always seems to show up on Tuesday. And I mean, this isn't a horrible news day, of course. So we'll look at Tuesday vibes and feeding frenzy with the dogs. Circumstance because positive when you adapt it. For Tuesday vibes. Have a lovely day, everyone, with people dancing and playing the violin. Tuesday vibes. Hey, the river dancing. I wonder if John from the Generational Gap knows how to do this. If he knows how to step dance like that, I'm going to ask him. I'll ask him as soon as I get off the air here, actually. I've got his number. I can ask him directly. I don't have to go through a social media site to ask. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. One day you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will become someone else's survival guide. Would that be the Wasteland Survival Guide? Oh, that's right. We're playing New Vegas, not Fallout 3. You guys who follow my video gaming content don't know what the Wasteland Survival Guide is. unless you've played Fallout 3 yourself. But that will be that. Let's go see the next trend, Tuesday Thoughts. While a Greek shepherd named Magnus was looking after his sheep, he stepped on mysterious black rock. The nails of his shoes instantly stuck to the rock. The Greens named the stone Magnet to honor the first person who experienced the force of magnetism. Tuesday Thoughts. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Don't let circumstances or people define you. Let your heart be glad. Feel joy. God gave it to you. When you have the presence of God within you, you have found the secret to joy. Praise God in advance for all the things He's going to do, will do, and has done. So those are your Tuesday thoughts for the day. It's pretty uplifting and inspiring. Shake Shack. We read this story earlier because Shake Shack is in the news because they possibly poisoned a police officer. We have no idea. But we went over that one already. Tuesday morning. Yeah, we had a lot of Tuesday stuff today, which is kind of nice because there's a little bit of inspiration going on there. Dr. Amir Khan, GP, says, good morning. So this is the first for me. Demoiselle fly in my garden. I absolutely adore dragonfly and damselflies. This is such a treat. The shimmering jewel-like colors remind me of the magical fairies, and their wings are just out of this world. Well, that's kind of neat. I actually do think that's kind of neat. Fabi Jr. said David didn't submit CV to God, but mentioned him to Samuel. May God single you out for greatness before the end of this year. Amen. A lot of religious stuff today, which is kind of cool. I mean, I think this country has lost a lot of religion at this point, but there's a lot that's going on. And a trampoline was taken away in what appears to be a hurricane or a tornado as well. So that's going to be your Tuesday thoughts for the day. And the last one we're going to read here is Tupac Shakur, because apparently today is Tupac's birthday. Happy birthday, Tupac Amaru Shakur, 1971 to infinity, apparently. A rapper, songwriter, actor, poet, activist, genius, he was bigger than hip-hop. Tupac Shakur was a serious intellectual. If you listen to Tupac without interrogating his lyrics, then you don't deserve to listen to Tupac. So, happy birthday to Tupac. I never really got into his music, so it would be news to me, but from what I understand, he did a lot for the hip-hop community and the rap community, so apparently CNN is having problems with this article, so unfortunately we won't be able to read it today, but that's going to be your Twitter trending for today, and that's going to be the news today. So come back here, join me later on tonight. We'll be playing some Fallout New Vegas, and just get back into the swing of things, of course. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more news and more politics, and something that I'm thankful for because it's Wednesday. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.